Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Do you want to both quickly introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Charlie Noble, Visual Effects Supervisor on No Time to Die.
I'm Chris Corbould, Special Effects Supervisor and Action Vehicle Supervisor on No Time to Die.
Awesome. And I was curious, just to start out, I'd love to get both of your perspectives on this when you're initially looking at the first script treatments, breaking it down into the, oh shit, how are we going to pull this one off? It sounds like you've got a bit of experience with the Bond ones, Chris, but actually both of you. But yeah, what's your experience like in terms of trying to identify, which are the big sequences that really stand out over all the others? And I guess we'll start with Chris and then pivot over to Charlie.
When you first get the script, it's fairly loose, and sometimes it's literally, a car chase happens. It's as loose as that, because the writers might not know where in the world we're doing it, what cars we're doing it with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's our job, my job, the stunt coordinator's job and the director's job to, piece together what those ingredients are. If it's a car chase, or if it's a firefight, or if it's a big explosion sequence, the written page is down there for us to look at, and then we have to build on that and embellish it and then make it as spectacular as we can. That's a whole collaborative process, with Charlie as well. We have to all get together, pitch ideas, and ultimately the director makes a decision which way we go. But he's very mindful of everything, all the input that we all have to put into it.
I love that. Thank you. And what about you, Charlie?
Yeah, I think from the outset it was really clear that there was just an overarching desire to get as much in camera as possible, and I really saw myself as an extension to all the other crafts on the show, from production designer to Chris to Lee Morrison, and we would obviously be called on to help out as and when necessary throughout. We ended up producing about 1,500 shots throughout the movie, which is quite a lot for a non-visual effects movie. And there are obviously certain bits in there when you read the script, you think, well, okay, well, maybe that's us. And then these sort of things firm up as you get into the pre-production process, and you discover which bits are going to be done practically, and then which bits are going to be us.
Charlie's underplaying his role there, really, because he makes all our special effects and all our stunts, and even the set extensions behind. That's what makes it really work. We do our bit, but Charlie paints out the driving pods on top of cars. He paints out the wires when stunt people are doing stuff. He's a hero in his own right, and it's invisible visual effects. It's not in your face. It's visual effects that you would never notice unless you knew it was there, which I think is a real masterpiece.
Don't want to do any disservice to the thousands of artists who worked on No Time to Die, because they did, go above and beyond to produce so many shots, in such lovely looking shots in a very limited timescale. We had about 14 weeks, but then the editorial process carried on throughout that, and it was pretty tight, I have to say. Yeah, so credit to them, really. Yeah.
No, that's great. It's such a huge, I think most people aren't really too aware of how many people and how much work is involved in delivering a feature. And the thing is, especially these days, it isn't so much like post-production isn't any longer post. It's usually, goes all the way through from the initial concepts all the way through to delivery. But especially with a Bond film, and especially the Bond films that are out of the 90s, it's definitely more about the invisible effects and downplaying things a little bit, because I still feel like, at least with the Daniel Craig ones and also more of the classics, it's a fine line between, you got Hollywood films which are completely over the top, and Bond needs to be completely over the top, but done in more of a realistic manner. So it's a bit of a tightrope. Is that some experience that you guys have kind of witnessed a little bit in terms of, what's ridiculous and too much versus still making it entertaining and, explosive?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the Bond films have evolved over the years, and certainly the Bond character has evolved as well with the times. So yes, in that regard, you're definitely right.
You're absolutely right. Before Daniel's era started, we did Die Another Day, and I think on that film we pushed the boundaries a little bit too far with invisible cars and a few other things in that film, and I think that was a wake-up call to all of us, really, and particularly Barbara and Michael, and hence, we went back to a really gritty Casino Royale with Daniel, really grounded, really down dirty, ultra realistic. At first, very few gadgets, they came in slowly later, but that was a real, back to square one time for us.
And the reason we all loved the old films was that you get to go to fantastic looking locations and for real, and we did travel to some great places, and Mark built some great sets, and it really comes through on the screen. It does look pretty sumptuous. Yeah,
I think that's just it. Like it's different eras as well. So I mean, at least for me, again, I'm talking about my interpretation. You guys are obviously very close to the IP versus me as the cinema goer. But I think that Bond in the 90s with Brosnan was, it was just a different era where I think it's more fun in some ways. And I mean, Bond is meant to be this untouchable guy, but that's also where Casino Royale was kind of a different direction, where it was kind of, I guess, him being a bit younger and, still like less elegant. He can't walk on water yet,
Well, I think, this is the 25th film in the series now, and you have to keep evolving. We had the great Sean Connery who set the scene, and Lazenby, and then Roger Moore. That was very much more of a tongue-in-cheek era. You couldn't keep doing the same film for 25 films, so you have to, every now and again put the shutters down, reinvent it, and then 4 or 5 films later put the shutters down and reinvent it again. It's, I think the Broccoli family have been masters at keeping this franchise going by doing exactly that.